Abba, I don't get it. I know the spies were punished because they didn't believe in God, so they weren't able to go into Israel, but why did they have to wander for so long? Why couldn't they just settle down and live in a normal, civilized place?
That's a great question. Why were they wandering in the desert for 40 years? You know, Minna, there's got to be a message here.
There's always a message.
There's always a message in the Torah portion. When you take a nation of millions of people and put them in the desert for 40 years, you're actually conditioning them in a forced environment. What does that do to you? I mean, if you're wandering in the desert for 40 years, what place does that bring you to?
I guess you're kind of dependent on a higher intervention, because in a desert you can't really survive on your own for that long.
That's actually a great point. So perhaps this is the message. The reason why the Jewish people are wandering in the desert for 40 years is because they were lacking faith in God. They said, there's no way we can make it to Israel. The people are too strong. The armies are too mighty. So the best way to respond to that is God took the Jewish people, put them in the desert for 40 years so that they're forced to be dependent on Him. The only way they're going to survive is if they have manna from heaven and a miraculous well traveling with them wherever they go. So in other words, the Jewish people were forced into a vulnerable position so that they recognized that the only way they could survive is by being dependent on God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like sometimes I feel so lost, but I think it's kind of God's way of saying that you could reach out to me and you could ask for help, and I can help you, and I can't live without you.
That is so beautiful. I think the three most important words that we all need to remember, my friends, is please help me. That's the message of this week's Torah portion. God is waiting for us to seek Him out. Sometimes He puts us in a dark place or a barren desert, but for one purpose. So we should call out and say, hello, anybody there? Please get me out of this mess. That is the power of vulnerability. So my friends, we wish you a safe journey on your desert, and of course,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.